Hello guys, the objective of this video first is to show you the power of the new weapon in Once Human, the Critical Pulse. The pros and cons of this weapon, when and where it is best utilized. How can you improve damage by tweaking or calibration and mods? Critical Pulse is a new power surge crossbow weapon introduced during the Season 0 of Lunar Scenario in Once Human. All legendary power surge weapons always get the top sooner or later. They all had the same fate as previous OP predecessors, aka Outer Space and Corrosion. Damage testing on dummy. All damage against Great Ones and no thermal tower buff. First test, I ate hot dog, drank whimsical drink, and shoot with bingo. This leads to 12k to 12.5k power surge trigger damage. Pretty decent, I would say. Second test is double ammo crossbow. Same food and beverage but different mod. To get additional ammo per reload, you have to have at least plus 50% magazine capacity. In order to do this, I recommend getting this helmet mod called Mag Expansion for plus 30% magazine. If you are at 0 magazine when reloading, One Piece Lone Wolf for another plus 10%, and at least 10% magazine capacity for mod attributes. Now let's compare the damage triggers of 1 ammo versus 2 ammo crossbow in slow motion. This is because when you have 2 ammo, you can trigger more power shock damage instantly. See that? The screen is filled with damage numbers on 2 ammo crossbow, which means it triggers more power surge. However, the damage is less since you're sacrificing few elemental and status damage for magazine capacity. For this final damage test, there will be an additional preparation. I heavy attack the Ice Cube with Cookery, and as you can see, I managed to get around 17k power surge damage per trigger, 2 times trigger with Mayfly goggles, but with less damage. For those who don't know, Cookery is a medium melee weapon that is dropped randomly in silos while using controller or opening crates with controllers, but I only got Cookery from Prime Wars. As for its weapon feature, defeating enemies grants a huge 30% attack, which you don't usually get easily, a whopping 15% crit rate, and if you heavy attack you get additional 20% psi intensity. This weapon is best for elemental damage. Critical Pulse is a great weapon, really great weapon. The weapon is versatile, which means you can use it in a lot of scenarios. Great damage for bosses, great in clearing mobs aside from clearing mobs. It is great in clearing clump metahumans. Strong psi intensity scaling. With the birth of this weapon, a new meta is born. Before, only AWS Bingo can one-shot one-bullet enemies in PvP. But now this is the PvP king. With this in mind, armor builds and mod with damage status damage reduction is crucial to fight it. The weapon has decent range, which made it to competitive gameplay. As for the weapon's disadvantage, the reload time is very low, which means that as soon as enemy get close while you reload, pray that you can survive with your other weapon with close range capabilities. There are few things you need to keep in mind in getting the most damage out of this weapon. First is the armor choice and key gear you have right now. In PvP scenarios, the best armor piece of this weapon is 4-piece Blackstone set, Mayfly goggles and key gear. And the last part should be 1-piece Renegade if you're going 1 ammo crossbow or 1-piece Lone Wolf if you want to do 2 ammo crossbow. Keep this in mind. 4-piece Shelter set will be worse because its effect says you lose half the deviant stacks if you reload, and this weapon always reload after every attack. As for the hides you use to craft the armor, use Lucky Rabbit Fur for your mask to get the most damage. Golden Wool and Lunar Wool will work as well. However, you already get a lot of status damage from summoning your deviation. For the deviation choice, the best one will always be the reworked Mini Feaster. This deviation now gives 20% status damage at level 5 Mini Feaster every 1.5 seconds, and stacking up to 4 stats, which means that you get up to 80% status damage. Little damage tip. You must always balance out your status damage and elemental damage to get the maximum amount of points. For example, you have 100% points to share with, Say 90% on status and 10% on elemental. You will get 1.9 times 1.1 equal to a multiplier of 2.09. However, if you do 50% on both elemental and status damage, you will get 1.5 times 1.5 equal to a multiplier of 2.25. See the difference? Since I am in PvE scenario at the moment, I can get away with going 𝕏𝖏𝖏𝐿 build, which means you can maintain your life at a very low percentage at minimum 9% to 10%. With this, your mods must consist 2 lunar suffix mods for helmet and top parts, and rush hour mod talents for shoes part.
For your weapon mod, use static shock or surge amplifier mods with power surge suffixes. Make sure you get damage against enemies affected by power surge as first priority, damage against elite or bosses, power surge damage and shock elemental damage as least priority. Mask mod will be thunderclap with power surge suffix. Similar explanation to weapon mod. After testing this weapon with this mod, I found out that the thunderclap does not proc unless you attack the enemy once again. This is great in PvP since you get to charge up at 200% psi intensity every time you attack. This leads to one shot, one killing meta-humans. Helmet mod should be work of proficiency to get 20% elemental damage and an additional 10% reload speed. Make sure it is lunar and gold on status damage, elemental damage, and damage against great ones or elite enemies. You can also do talent suffix. This will deal less damage, but you are always be on the safer side. Use any mod with the best substats for your top mod. Use talents or lunar. You can also do blue mod claim resonance talents with damage against great ones or elite as substitute. Pants mod should have normal increase with talents suffix to get a total of 36% status damage at max stats. Gloves mod should be elemental overload with talents suffix. For the shoes mod, covered advanced talents would be the no-brainer choice. However, I love seeing big numbers, so I always use rush hour talents to get an additional 16% weapon and status damage while maintaining my life at 10%.
For you weapon calibration, portable style is the best choice with 2 elemental damage. Precision style will be the worst choice for it lessen your reload speed. To summarize the mods and some few details, pause right here. Or you can always join Discord server or PM me through Discord. If you like the guide, you might as well subscribe, like, and share. And now to continue. For the food buffs, you may look at this list that I think benefits a lot to this weapon to see if there's something you prefer. But my go-to food buff for this weapon will always be mixed fried hot dog, whimsical drink, and pan-fried barracuda, for this is the food that I see with the best damage potential. And finally, using cookery as a melee weapon. Now you're using all the guns and knives at your disposal. If you remember, I have said before that this melee weapon gives the best buff, including 30% attack damage, 15% crit rate, and 20% psi intensity. That's all for the video. Thank you for watching, I guess.